baseball is missing the boat and remembering Jerry Coleman.
Welcome to the Baseball Beat with your host, Dan Lovallo.
How many people remember Jerry Coleman? I remember Jerry Coleman when he was broadcasting games for the New York Yankees. We'll get to that in just a moment on the Baseball Beat, but I want to talk a bit about how Major League Baseball is missing the boat and how they can score a lot of goodwill before the abbreviated 60-game season is over. And it's scheduled to start this Thursday. I'm putting this podcast together on Tuesday, July 21st. The season launches on Thursday, July 23rd, when the world champion Washington Nationals host the New York Yankees. Now, how are they missing the boat? Particularly since they lost a lot of goodwill with this battle between the Players Association and the commissioner in launching this truncated season. If you've noticed, and I've watched some of the exhibition games, they have these fan cutouts positioned behind home plate, so it appears as if fans are in the stands. Now I'm reading where Major League Baseball is going to have more advertisements either physically placed in the seats or superimposed on your television screen. My suggestion is that when it comes to at least behind home plate, if they're going to have these fan cutouts, what Major League Baseball ought to do is put the faces of real fans on these cutouts. Now, how would you get your face on one of these cutouts to be displayed behind home plate so that when you get an angle from the center field camera, you will be able to see yourself on TV? Charity. What a golden opportunity for baseball to score some major public relation successes by having fans donate to a favorite charity, a ball player's favorite charity, a ball club's favorite charity, and in return, you get your face placed on one of these fan cutouts behind home plate. Baseball wins, the charity wins, some publicity for the fans. It will really get people involved. Speaking of the fans, and particularly the younger demographic, on Monday, July 20th, Major League Baseball unveiled how they're going to cover these games on television this season, because that's going to be one of the avenues you'll be watching the games from. You're not going to be able to go to the ballpark and watch the games. And they're trying to get more interactive with the younger demo because they fear, and rightly so, that they are losing the younger demo. And so what baseball is going to do is have a lot of interaction in addition to new camera angles on how the game is covered, as far as how managers appeal and umpires call. This is going to be very extensive. They're using a whole new program. Before, the program was called, Statman 1? Well, now they're going to be using Statman 2. You're going to see how the game is covered this year in a very, very different way as Major League Baseball unveiled how the game is going to be presented on television. They did this on Monday, and now what they're going to do is incorporate it when the games start for real on Thursday, and it should be interesting. Jerry Coleman. How many people remember Jerry Coleman? I do. I grew up listening to Jerry Coleman broadcast New York Yankees games, first with Phil Rizzuto, Mel Allen, and Red Barber, and then Phil Rizzuto, Joe Garagiola, and Red Barber, and then Phil Rizzuto and Frank Messer. So Jerry Coleman was a Yankees broadcaster, but before that, he and Phil Rizzuto made up the Yankees double-play combination. Before there was Kubek and Richardson, there was Rizzuto and Coleman. And then after Coleman retired, following a respectable baseball career with the New York Yankees, and by the way, remember, Jerry Coleman served his country in both World War II and the Korean War. He didn't like to talk about it, but he was a well-decorated war veteran who served his country. He played on the New York Yankees, though taking a break for the Korean War. He had already been in World War II, but taking a break for the Korean War. He played on the Yankees between 1949 and 1957. And with the Yanks, he was a very respectable second baseman, clutch hitter, not an overwhelming hitter. He had a lifetime batting average of .263, 16 career homers, 217 runs batted in. In 9 seasons with the Yanks, he played in 723 games. And, of course, when you played with the Yankees in that era, you also played in the World Series. And so he did get into the World Series in 1949, 50, 51, 55, 56, and 57. And in the series, he batted .275 in 26 games with 9 runs batted in. Very respectable World Series average. But that said, Jerry Coleman then went into the Yankees front office, worked in their player development department, did that for a few years, and in 1963, when the Yankees expanded their broadcasting crew from 3 to 4 broadcasters, he joined Mel Allen, Phil Rizzuto, and Red Barber in both the radio and television broadcasting booths. So that was Jerry Coleman. And he stayed with the Yankees through the 1969 season as a broadcaster, and then left because he hails from California. He was born in San Jose, California. He left to go and broadcast the games for the San Diego Padres. In fact, he is in the broadcasters wing of the Baseball Hall of Fame because of his broadcasting career, which included games for the Yankees, mostly with the Padres. He became renowned as the voice of the San Diego Padres. And also he broadcast the CBS Radio Game of the Week back when. And he was known for his malaprops as a broadcaster, but I always thought he was a very good broadcaster, very good to listen to. He was at the television mic, by the way, on WPIX Channel 11 when Mickey Mantle hit his 500th career home run with the New York Yankees. You can see it on YouTube. In fact, I'll probably even link to it in the show notes at thebaseballbeat.com so you can hear Coleman's call of Mantle's home run. But that said, Jerry Coleman, remember now, ball player, worked in player development, broadcaster, also was a major league manager for 1 year, 1980, with the San Diego Padres. He left the broadcast booth to manage. And in early May of 1980, I caught up with Jerry Coleman when the Padres were in town to play the New York Mets at Shea Stadium. At this point, the Padres were hanging around the 500 mark as I interviewed Jerry Coleman, and here's that interview.
I'm talking with Jerry Coleman, manager of the San Diego Padres. And Jerry, first of all, how has the transition been to this point from the broadcast booth to the manager's dugout?
Erratic and frustrating with some joy and some tears, I would have to say. It's been a rather unusual change, totally different. There's no way you can relate the two jobs in the same category. They're part of baseball, but they're so totally different that I can't even begin to, in this short period of time, tell you the differences. But the basic thing is, as a broadcaster, it's an objective sort of a relationship where you're telling people, relating a story, trying to give them the facts of what's happening on the field. Management is total involvement, and that really is the difference, the involvement.
How much frustration has there been?
Well, there's always frustration when you're making moves or have control of moves that don't work. If you do something and it doesn't pan out, you think about it, you know, that, well, I could have done something different, or maybe if I had made this move, or maybe if I played that man, or taken a pitcher out sooner, or let somebody else hit, or whatever. There are endless little things that can frustrate you when they don't work.
Okay, making moves. You played for Casey Stengel, who was renowned for making moves. How much of his style has been an influence on you?
Not a lot, really. I don't think. If it has been, it's been something that's not a conscious relationship. Stengel, I played for 9 years. I consider him the perfect manager, and I probably would have to think that some of the things I do relate to him, but they're not a conscious relationship.
Your ball club got off to a good start. They slumped a bit. Now they've won 4 in a row. Well, where do you see the San Diego team heading? Where do you feel they have to strengthen themselves?
Well, we have to hit better. We're the lowest hitting club in the National League right now. It's unfortunate. We have some players that are better hitters. We have a lifetime 287 hitter batting under 200 right now, and he's been up nearly 100 times. That's very unique and unusual. The strength of our club is our pitching, and I think that we have enough pitching to be respectable all year no matter what happens in the other phases. But we have to improve our hitting.
Finally, Jerry, what was your reaction? Were you approached for the manager's job? What did you say? Did you think they were kidding at first? Just what?
Frankly, I did. In fact, there were some preliminary conversations that I thought were in jest and took them exactly that way. And it was about the third or fourth sort of bantering of ideas between myself and my general manager, Bob Fontaine, when I began to realize that maybe he was serious. And I said, hey, you serious about this? And he said, let's talk about it. And that's how it all came to pass.
Okay, why'd you take the job then?
Involvement. I think it was a challenge.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Well, there you have it, my interview with Jerry Coleman. He lasted just 1 year as a San Diego Padres manager. The team didn't do all that well. They ended up with a 73, 89, and 1 tie record in last place in the National League West, 19 and a half games behind the division-winning Houston Astros. And so Coleman, after managing the team 1 year, returned to the San Diego Padres broadcast booth. Jerry Coleman was born in San Jose, California on September 14th, 1924, and he died at the age of 89 in La Jolla, California, a San Diego suburb, on January 5th, 2014. By the way, that 1980 San Diego Padres team, which Coleman managed, had 3 future Hall of Famers. How's that for a trivia question? Among the members of the team were Raleigh Fingers, Dave Winfield, and Ozzie Smith. And they had some pretty good players beyond the future Hall of Famers. They had pitcher Rick Wise was on the staff. Former World Series hero Gene Tennis was one of the catchers on the 1980 San Diego Padres. Of course, they had Randy Jones, a smooth left-handed pitcher who once threw a complete game in under 80 pitches. They had, Aurelio Rodriguez, a slick-fielding third baseman. Willie Montañez was on the 1980 San Diego Padres. So was Jerry Mumphrey, who later played in a World Series with the New York Yankees. Another former Yankee was on that team, pitcher Bob Shirley. And Juan Eichelberger, a pitcher, was on the San Diego Padres. My paths crossed with Juan when I was broadcasting games for the Richmond Braves, and he was trying to make a comeback. Some of the members of the 1980 San Diego Padres. So there you have it, my interview with Jerry Coleman. Be sure to visit my website, thebaseballbeat.com or danlavallo.com. You can subscribe to the podcast. In fact, I would be most heartened if you subscribe to the podcast. We are in the Apple Podcast Directory, the Google Podcast Directory, and all the other podcast directories. You name it, Spotify, iHeart, we're there. And, by the way, subscribe to my Monday Sports Musings. You can do that if you visit danlavallo.com. And as always, thanks for listening to the podcast, The Baseball Beat.